Yeah, I forgot to do a video for the Friday close. I spent pretty much the whole weekend up in a tree with the family, tree house weekend. And I didn't really have the equipment, as you can imagine, to do a recap late during the weekend for the Friday close. So here we go, Monday morning. S&P, it was a green day on Friday for all the markets, sideways. I don't think the trend is ruined. We can get rid of this trend line now too, by the way. I think S&P needs to take out 444, close above it to actually try and venture towards its old highs. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we will move lower, but you can see there was an attempt to stage a bit of a bounce attempt for next week, for this week coming. There are quite a few data releases this week. So, there's the potential for a move higher if there's data to back it. I think we're just going to flush this neckline and create the right shoulder, a weaker right shoulder than the left shoulder. I've said that. I think it's forming, and I think it will form. If we look at the Nasdaq, it's an even weaker bounce. Now, Nvidia has a lot to prove this week. I think it will close below 450, I think it was, and just flush basically. And I think if Nvidia goes down, the Nasdaq goes down. So those two are very much tied. And I think all the markets are tied to Nvidia, just to some degree this week at least. I mean, even late last week, that was somewhat the case. So I think, again, it's about the data release and Nvidia that will decide a lot, or at least have a big influence. But you can see here it's weaker than the S&P. It's really got to close above this 372.5, let's say 373, to have a run up here. But otherwise, I think we're just going to go lower, test either this or the ascending, depends how long it takes, probably be immediate. And as soon as we close below 354, bam, we should start venturing lower, much lower. So very important week. I think we're going to create the right shoulder and close below. Dow Jones did okay. We're still within this ascending, but again, if all the markets go lower, it's really a case of closing below this ascending, or just to be sure, below Friday's low of day. Below 34,000 would really do it for me, and at least take us to 33,600. Small bounce from here, and then down we go. Once we lose this horizontal, I really don't see any support until 33,000-ish. So yeah, the Dow Jones will probably make its way slower than the others, but let's see. They do catch up quite a lot. The Russell, for example, that one, which had a nice late pump, that came down quite quickly. And it's really between 180 and 182 support, where you can see it's hit twice. And look, on Friday, we actually ventured below, and then we rallied off our lows because everything else was green. But look, it was the weakest one. I think the Russell will, as soon as the others start to turn down, the Russell will be, aiming for 180 quite quickly. And it closed below 180. The Russell will, take us pretty much straight to 172. I mean, we'll stop off here at the gap and stuff like this, but that'll be a magnet, I think. And then we're very close to the bear market low. So the Russell, I think, will be the first one to start testing its bear market lows. Let's look at the banks. The banks actually were quite weak relative to the stocks, to the general stock markets, whereas the day before they were actually okay. They were relatively strong compared to the stock markets. But this just holding this pattern down here, this horizontal, and I think it will just flush like the others and go down here, and at which point it'll look very, very weak, and it could easily go back down to its bear market lows. We'd be there actually. So again, the banks and the Russell will be the first ones to hit their bear market lows, or look like they're about to. And obviously the others will take a bit more time, but there's a long way down. All right, interest rates. Look at the 1 year. It was really the 1 year, the 2 year. Look at the 1 year. It's the first time it's done this in several trading days, several weeks actually. We had this Thursday candle, which stood out. It closed at high of day, and Friday really stood out for me. So the 1 year, I think the very, very near term rates are going to be pumping higher here, because the Fed, tough talk, Jackson Hole just indicated that rates will go higher sooner than people think. But then, there's that reiteration that next year rates will be cut. And I think everyone's anticipating rate cuts, and basically a very full-blown aggressive recession, which will require rate cuts. So I think the longer ended ones are taking their time to tick up, but the 1 year, even the 2 year, look at this, just holding up here. Okay, Friday wasn't down much. it was down, but not too much. But look at the 5-year, little off, 10-year lower, 30-year even lower. So you can see how it's the immediate 1 and 2 year that will pop higher, but the 2 year is the important one. The 2 year is the one where the Fed has to follow the 2 year basically. And here we're looking like triple top breakout. So if the 1 year, this is my opinion, obviously, if the 1 year starts to squeeze a little bit here above 5.5, especially close above 5.5, it's never done that. In fact, this is the best closed ever. So if we start to pump high, which I think we will this week, the 2 year will start to close above 5.1, and that should move markets lower, probably the banks and the Russell first. But otherwise, the others will tick up too. It's just still be a bit slower. So you can see the 5, the 10, and the 30. The 30 will really take its time, I think, but up nonetheless. Let's look at the dollar index. That's probably the most important one. Now look at this. We closed here on Thursday, very strong close. Friday, what do? We tested the horizontal perfectly, may I say. 104.5, absolutely tagged it. So it's good to see all the technicals have worked, to be honest. Even this one here where we triangulate here, all 3 trend lines, you can see it clearly broke above it, but it really had to make a power surge through to make its voice heard. But we tagged here, closed here, middle of the range between both trend lines. And now what do? I have no idea. I have no idea whether we're just going to go sideways and then continue the breakout, or if we're going to retrace, test one of these descendings and then bounce. To me, we've clearly taken out this very important trend line, these 3 very important trend lines, especially the longer ones, especially this one here. We took it out, I mean, look at this, fail. But I also think that it's going to have to coincide with some news. Why not? I mean, we have a lot of news coming out. We've got, well, I can't think of them all off the top of my head, but a lot of strategic news, very important stuff that'll definitely move the DXY, and I think it'll just hold, sideways, retrace in anticipation of the news, and then it'll start to curl up probably as the news comes. So I think the DXY is waiting for the news, but very strong stuff today. I don't expect much, just sideways. I think the big news is actually on Tuesday. We might as well see what the news is, because it's that important. So economic calendar. Consumer confidence. Jolts. Yeah, that'll probably be the first one. I don't expect much on Monday. And then etc. I won't do the whole week. Let's get back to it. But Tuesday is probably the first decent news to come out. All right, let's look at commodities. Copper, just sideways, nothing crazy. And that's with the dollar doing okay. Still, if the dollar keeps surging, copper's going to have to come back down. I think also, regardless of what the dollar does, if the market starts to move lower, copper will move down with it. Natural gas, look at this. Look at this, absolutely toying with everyone. All the way up to 3. It even closed above 3 just to screw with everyone a bit more. Comes all the way back down, which was normal down to here. And then further retracement. This was just, I thought this was the low because we had this descending retest, which I took out the descending. And it ended up coming all the way back down to 2.5 and didn't close below it, of course. Of course it didn't. Just to toy with everyone completely on either side of the trade. Now, thank God I don't trade strict stop losses. I've learned to not do that. I use mental stop losses, and generally I'm trading things that I have long-term views in, so I don't really need to stop out. But look at this, all the way back down, bouncing, and here we are gapping up. Apparently, this morning, I had no idea, above 2.74, which is pretty decent actually. Above this descending, that's the first time. I actually redrew this descending so that it coincides with this latest pump to 3, but this looks very accurate, this descending. So this one, I believe. So now I really think we're going to go back up to 3, and let's just see if we can close above 3.5. And then I think natural gas should squeeze. But so far, these last 3 candles are very nice. But look at this retracement, unbelievable. Oil sideways, still holding 79. I think we go lower with the markets. regardless of what the dollar does. But obviously, if the dollar goes up more, that should put pressure on oil. But I think really it's the markets coming down that should take us. And a close below 78 should do it. You can see here we bounced twice off 78, so close below it should move us down to 74. Uranium, incredible strength. Look at that. Just overall, when you zoom out, you can see it's going up and it continues to show that progress. Now, obviously, we had a nice day on Friday, so even more of a reason to have a green day. But look, again, a very strong close, actually stronger than the last close. So uranium, up we go to 24.25. Let's just say 24 basically, which is pretty much where we are anyway. So let's go up to 24, test that, maybe retrace it and go higher. Again, a market crash could really flush us. So maybe we have another ascending we could put in place here. But yeah, let's see. I think even a market crash would just be a buying opportunity. Let's go to gold and silver. So they had a sideways day. I know it was red, but basically sideways day is quite constructive stuff. You know, it came all the way down to 1903 and rallied up back $10 higher. So that's quite good. And so far we're looking okay. It depends a lot on the markets and the dollar. But I think gold has done a nice retest, you know, and now we want to go higher and test 1940. So I think even with the dollar going up, you could get gold going up a little bit. I think it's due for a bigger bounce. I think 1920 was nice. You know, that's sort of 30, 35-ish dollars of a bounce, but I think we can go to 1940. This was a big drop, and silver, its friend, which also did the same, you know, nice sort of retest. That wasn't even that low. I was expecting at least 23.8. But, you know, ventured to 24 and now sideways. Silver could still really rocket higher. I mean, if gold goes to 1940, silver, like I said a few videos ago, could get to 25, and that looks very bullish very quickly. That's probably a zone you want to trim a little bit, if you bought anything down here. That's what I'm thinking. You know, if you get to 1940 on gold, whatever you bought here, just trim that off and see if it can go there. Obviously, that depends at that point on the dollar and the market still, and interest rates, of course. But gold looking good. I'm not going to look at levels on the downside. I think they're pretty clear, and I don't think we will go all the way lower until at least Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, depending on news. I think we've got non-farm payrolls also coming out. So I think that's Wednesday. Depends on the date. All right, let's look at the miners. They were a little weaker than the metals on Friday, but still, you know, not off their, I mean, they bounced decently off their lows, so a bit of sideways action. Looking to move all the way up here on the GDX. So I hope we go a little higher than this if gold gets to 1940. But you can see this level. And so far, this level here identified very good. Look at this, clicked it 3 times. That's definitely resistance. This should be the next resistance. And then you can see the rest. So a nice gap fill here, by the way. That was good. That's with the gold moving down to 1905-ish. GDXJ, same sort of move, same sort of gap fill. You know, underperforming. I would have expected a little higher of a close, but still decent close off its lows. And yeah, I think I still kind of agree with these levels. This one's not so much. That's middle of the range. I mean, it's obviously more here, the level. But yeah, let's see if we can just move higher. I'm still expecting a bit of a move higher in gold and silver. And I'm just wondering whether that will happen regardless of the dollar. Let's finish off with Bitcoin, which is a little red so far today. You know, that's not the strongest chart. That's not the strongest bounce after a nice flush. I think we have some ETF news to this week. Is it BlackRock ETF? I think that's overplayed. You know, buy the news, buy the rumor, sell the news kind of stuff. So I actually expect Bitcoin to go down with the markets, actually, probably with NVIDIA. A lot of traders are trading both, actually jumping from Bitcoin to NVIDIA. And I think both will flush. So I'm looking for a close below 25,000 this week. And well, I don't know, a big move to 20,000 is asking a lot. But otherwise, if we move back up, I don't know how accurate this is, but well, before we test this ascending, we're going to have to test the horizontals to 28,500, 28,600. It should fail there and come back down. So either way, well, no, I'm still pretty bearish Bitcoin. So down to 20,000. All right, that'll do. I'm doing this one slightly quickly. I also want to get my weekly portfolio video in place. I forgot to do that one too. So let's see what happens this week, but hopefully I get to do another video in the next few hours.